Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next YouTube video, and this is going to be my next Transformers comic review. Last time I reviewed Robots in Disguise Volume 2, and this time I'm going to be reviewing More Than Meets the Eye Volume 3. So there is the cover to the trade paperback. It's a 5-issue trade, though there's kind of 4 stories in this. As you can see, there's all the stuff. Now, what's contained in this trade is the More Than Meets the Eye annual, which is titled Primus, and issues 9, 10, and 11. Now, I'll show you and extras. The extras are a cover gallery, all the retailer incentive covers, as well as a few sketches by the artist who does some of the flashbacks in the annual Guido Guidi. And as you can see there's some of those. So there's a small amount of extras, but this is a 5-issue trade, as I'm going to show you. The annual itself, which is here, is the first thing that's in the trade, and here it is. You can kind of tell that it's not bound the same way as like an individual single issue. This is issue 9, because it's a double-sized issue. Basically, there's a 44 pages, so it's a double-length kind of issue to make it the annual. The annual's not kind of numbered, so like it fits in between issues. And oddly, the issues that it fits in between are not 8 and 9, but rather 7 and 8, which are the final 2 issues of the More Than Meets the Eye Volume 2 trade. So a bit kind of odd one that they inserted this in there. So, but I think it works out in the end. I suppose that they didn't want to split up those 2 scavenger stories, 7 and 8, with the annual in between them. So it kind of made sense that they put it in just after issue 8, even though it takes place before that. So that's the annual. And then issues 9, 10, and 11 are basically a 3-part story, and they, as you can see on the cover, they tell the Shadow Play story. So there's issue 9, issue 10 also says Shadow Play on it, and issue 11, Shadow Play. And so issues 9, 10, and 11, as well as the annual, are all written by James Roberts. Issues 9, 10, 11 are drawn by Alex Milne on art, and Josh Bertram does the colours. And then the annual is done by a kind of almost nearly completely different creative team. It's art by Jimbo Salgado and Emil Cabaltiera, flashback art by Guido Guidi, colours by Juan Fernandez and Joana Lafuente. So completely different team on the annual, but the usual team, I suppose, on the issues. So I'll actually get straight into the annual, which is the first thing that's in this trade. Now, I'll just showcase the art off for you guys. Now, here you go. I think that this is page 2 and 3 of the comic, and you can sort of see what the art is like. It's not as clean or kind of clear, maybe, as Alex Milne's work or even Nick Roche's work, because you can the lines kind of seem pretty heavy. Maybe everything seems a bit kind of blurry. You can sort of see the maybe a little bit of over inking maybe on some of the panels, like with Ratchet there. And then mainly it's just some maybe proportion stuff throughout the rest of the book. Like you can see Tailgate has massively long legs here. Chrome Dome's head seems to get squished from panel to panel here. It's just a few kind of consistency issues, I suppose, with the art. That doesn't mean it's like amazing, but it's still very solid throughout. And that one of my favourite kind of panels, probably from all of More Than Meets the Eye so far, is this Ultra Magnus smiling for the 2nd time ever. I think that's just a pretty perfect panel right there. And I just like that. So the art is nice throughout. It's clear to see what's going on. Just sometimes it makes a few mistakes, I suppose. And then obviously there's kind of 2 artists that do the kind of present day stuff, are doing that type of art, while the flashback art by Guido Guidi you can see here. So very kind of retro style. From the Transformers comics I've never read, so This art, I don't really like this art too much, mainly because of the kind of weird kind of dot patterns all over the page. It just seems a bit odd to me. But maybe I'd understand it better if I'd read some of the books that were actually like drawn in this kind of style and colored in this style. But it's a very interesting issue in what it deals with. As you can tell, there's a Metro Titan on the cover, so it's a pretty interesting issue. The start is very kind of character focused on Ultra Magnus and all about him. In that he has this kind of cyber plague kind of going on in his body, and basically it's infecting his mouth kind of currently. So they shrink down some of the crew, put them into his mouth to basically exterminate these things. So, you get the kind of perspective, kind of shock at the early thing of like, hey, why is Ratchet's head so big? Oh, they're in Ultra Magnus. You get that whole thing. And then the resolution to this kind of start bit of the story is that Ultra Magnus has to smile to basically activate these unused pistons that he doesn't, because he doesn't smile so much, and destroy all these things. So, probably the first time ever a smile has been the resolution to a story plot. So, pretty hilarious moments there. And then you have stuff like Tailgate becoming an Autobot. Pretty much, he gets the logo, gets auto branded, and that's when they start to kind of feel the presence of the Metro Titan nearby. Rodimus is writing, instead of drawing a Autobot logo, write some stuff in Old Cybertronian. Some of the crew members who were kind of on life support begin to kind of move again, though they're not fully alive again, all because there's a Metro Titan nearby. And even though the Metro Titan's kind of dying, kind of in stasis, it's still exerting this kind of pull. So there's these the Metro Titans are these legendary things that are linked to the Knights of Cybertron. They're the people who they're the things that carried the Knights of Cybertron around. And they obviously discover this one, they go down to the planet. While this happens, we get the kind of Galactic Council coming in, who really respect Ultra Magnus because of his work with the Tyrester Accord. And Ultra Magnus pretty much is the main character of this, because they offer him a role with the Council, which is this really respected thing, and they're kind of almost bullying the Transformers. And he gets them the time on the planet. And then, the resolution, I think, to this whole issue, how he gets out of this is pretty interesting. It's him smiling again and not accepting this. So, he starts off kind of being made fun of by the crew for smiling for the first time, and then the book ends kind of with him basically becoming a member of the crew, not wanting to leave the crew, and like a smile being a crucial part of that. So it's a really nice story with the kind of, I suppose, more serious aspect being the Metro Titan part of the book. So I didn't get too in-depth into like what the story is about, but it's an important kind of part of the story that they tell in this annual, which in itself is a bit odd that they tell that this story wasn't told in a numbered issue, but it makes sense because it didn't kind of work out the way you would expect maybe from a numbered issue. So I'll get into the Shadow Play kind of story arc, and for me these three books all kind of link together so much, even more so than like some of the other kind of 2-part or 3-part stories, because they are all named Shadow Play, and it just plays that way. The aim of this story is that Rung was basically shot in the head at the end of the last kind of story arc, issue 6, and basically it turns out he wasn't dead. He didn't die, but he was just basically put into really deep stasis. He was repaired, but his kind of brain module isn't responding at all, so he's kind of in this coma. And so what the crew decide to do, led by Rewind, who's the kind of archivist guy, he wheels out this kind of comatose Rung into the bar and says, yep, we're going to fix Rung's brain. And he has this whole thing planned up where, since the Transformers are so old, they've pretty much all met each other at some stage in their lives, and they've all met Rung at some stage in their lives. So he's going to tell this giant story about how pretty much the whole crew's paths crossed and how they kind of all met Rung at some stage. And the story itself doesn't focus on Rung, it's just kind of a thing to involve him and all of them, while also telling this shadow play story, which is crazy into the, like, political Transformers, political religion, and all this other stuff. It's really kind of a crazy story, but it's so kind of exciting as you hear it told, and it's presented in a really interesting way. It kind of flashes back and forth between, like, the crew members just at the bar telling the story through word bubbles, and then actually the art showing us what happens. So you can see here, like, here's like a flashback. As you can see, Rung is there, and it's obviously being told. And then here's the kind of start of this whole thing, where they're talking about telling the story here, and there's the zones of influence where they've all met each other. So it's a really interesting way in, like, the positions they choose to kind of come back to the actual crew in the ship, and, like, you get these funny moments, like, they're like, hey, that never happened, and then they're just like, shh, it did happen, and all this stuff. You have, like, crew members going in and out, like, because stuff is also still going on the ship. And the story itself is actually, I suppose, mainly focused on Orion Pax, Optimus Prime, Prowl, and Chrome Dome. Now, Chrome Dome is probably the main Lost Light character in the story, along with Ratchet, and these two basically tell the story of, like, especially Chrome Dome, of how he used to be partners with Prowl when they were, like, investigating crimes, and how it links into this this early kind of Decepticon sort of stuff, where they were trying to get them to become an official political party so they could control them. And the whole shadow play thing is about kind of, like, altering people's memories and changing their personalities in these kind of clinics. And it links into the fact that Chrome Dome is a memory surgeon, a mnemosurgeon, and has that ability. So it's a really kind of crazy story, kind of deep down in it, and I probably haven't described it the best, because it is a pretty complex story. Like, if someone just said, in, like, 2 sentences, describe to me basically what the shadow play story is about, and just kind of like, well, this happens and this happens and this happens, it's not something you can really summarize that easily. It's basically an investigation into some of these kind of more crazy things that I suppose the Autobots are doing, undercover stuff that the Decepticons are doing, and it's like before the war has properly kicked off. So, like, it shows you that the Autobots were doing kind of these crazy things even before the war started, and, like, it's the Autobots, not the Decepticons, so it's even kind of worse. And it's just, I suppose, it adds to the characters on the ship without actually telling a story that happens kind of in the present day. It's just, you get more of the characters through what happened to them in the past, and that's why I think this shadow play story works so well. And from there, kind of turns out into, like, an assassination attempt on, like, people at one of the Prime's funerals, and that leads Optimus and his team to have to, like, steal this fake Matrix, which is the bomb, and stuff like this. It's pretty crazy, but it's just so fun, I think. And throughout these issues, I think you get super in-depth into stuff like Transformers religion, political movements, stuff like some Transformers deny themselves the ability to transform, so they remove their transformation cog because they don't believe in the kind of religious side of where transformation kind of came from. And, like, that sort of stuff is explored in the kind of flashback stuff in this annual, and then the Robots in Disguise annual. So it's super in-depth, and you see James Roberts' writing probably at some of its best in these issues. Now, there's a huge amount of text on a lot of the pages in some of these pages, but I think it works here because they need to explain a lot of stuff. Like, I'm just trying to find one of the more text-heavy pages. Like even that's a pretty text-heavy page, like there. Um, but I've probably gone on too long already, so I'll just like end by saying this is what I was reviewing, the trade paperback. Retails for 19.99, and it only came out I think a month or two ago. So, volume 4 of this is not yet out. But anyway, Modern Mystery Volume 3 contains the annual, issues 9, 10, and 11. So, I definitely recommend this book. It's as a kind of group of issues. One of my complaints about Robots in Disguise Volume 2 was that the issues contained in it didn't really tell a specific story. In this one, you get more of a standalone story with the annual, and then a kind of three-parter from 3 issues that tells a really interesting story. So, More Than Meets the Eye seems to have these better kind of contained stories in each trade. So, reading them in trade format kind of works with More Than Meets the Eye, while it's not the best, I suppose, with Robots in Disguise. But anyway, I will be back probably next week with my review of Robots in Disguise, Volume 3. Sorry I don't have it with me right now to show you that, but I do have it. So I will be back for that next week. Thank you for watching this review, and bye.